Good morning, everyone. This is Nate G. It is July 2nd, and we're going to do a quick lesson on when charts break down and how to tell that. And it's kind of a continuation on the lesson we did yesterday in terms of marking up the charts. And we have three different charts that everyone is in right now in the room because they were official trades of the room. We have Kava, we have Ollie, and we have Waste Management. Okay. And all three of these, as you can see on my chart, are marked up. And if you watched the video from yesterday or was in the training, you know that the bottom yellow line is the value area low, and the top area of the line of the chart that's yellow is the value area high, and then the red lines in between are point of control reference areas. So when we look at any one of these charts, and let's start with Kava, right? People are currently taking some heat in Kava and wondering if the chart's broken and wondering if they should get out and so forth. Well, we're playing this larger time frame squeeze on almost the, you could play this one depending on when you took the trade, all the way out to like the 130-minute chart. Actually, all the way out. Can you go to the daily? Yeah, kind of the daily, but let's say the 195, right? Well, once we have our lines drawn here, and this one's a little bit different, right? We have our yellow trend line, the forming our ascending triangle, and then we have our double top up here. And as long as, and I'm going to come back out here until the 30-minute chart, as long as the pattern, right, stays within this triangle, right? It has not broken down. Oh, sorry, that's an awful line, but you see what I'm trying to do here. As long as it stays within that triangle, the pattern is still intact, right? And so it's just moving within this pattern, right? It's coming up into its support areas. It's coming up into resistance areas. It's coming down into support areas. Now, when does this chart break down? At least playing this ascending triangle pattern, right? Well, to me, what I'm watching for, and I'm also watching this for an entry, is I don't know what's it's gonna come down here, but if we come down here and we match, we bounce off of both this point of control level here and this trend line here, that would be a great spot for an entry. Now, if we start to break below that, I'm going to sort of play the value area low here, right? You can see it come all the way across as sort of this first breakdown would be kind of a key indicator, and then I'd kind of be watching, if I didn't cut it right away and I wasn't quite sure, this almost 90 dollars level. Let's call it 89.56 for me would be, if I had been playing it in here, would be a breakdown. So is the chart broken down? Not at all. This chart still looks absolutely stunning, right? This is a stunning chart. The reason that many of the of you in the room are feeling like this is a busted trade, right, is because you're buying, you most likely, this is my guess, right, you bought options that expire this week, right? So you needed it to work on Monday or last Friday or whatever. And it's just slowly creeping up, but you're in the last week of your options expiration. And so your option is, the theta is just chewing you up because you needed it to do this right away, right? So your theta is just absolutely destroying you. So then if theta is destroying you and it's going down a little bit, then it feels like the world is completely coming unglued, and this is the worst trade in the world. when in actuality, the only thing wrong with this trade, and now I'm making some guesses, right? I'm making some guesses on maybe you have something this week expiring on the 5th, and this is an awful week to have options expiring that aren't quite working because you have a half day tomorrow. You have Thursday off for the 4th, and then you just have that last day of your options expiration. So essentially, your options today is Thursday of a typical week, right? Or thereabouts. I'm sort of extrapolating that a little bit more than I should. But today's like, late Wednesday, early Thursday in terms of how your option is going to deteriorate, right? So is the chart broken? Absolutely not. This is such a gorgeous chart. Do you have options that are not probably not going to work out for this one? Given that it's a slow week and all that, yeah, probably. So the only thing wrong with this trade, in my opinion, is potentially, and it could work today. I don't know. I'm just saying it could have been the option contract that you bought, right? And that's the big key to trading the way we trade in this room is buying the wrong option contract, and you don't necessarily know, right? The saying is, when in doubt, go further out, right? So give yourself as much time as possible, especially when you're looking at a chart, on the 78, 130, 195. You want to try and go out 3 weeks or 4 weeks if you can, and then you have time to let the trade play out. So it's not busted. You just don't have the right option contract for it to work. Does that make sense? So the other one that is taking heat is WM. Oh, wait a second here. Right, this one's taking heat today, right? But if you're playing this daily chart, it's still well intact. It just, the only thing that happened is, right, it worked its way up here, up, hit its predetermined resistance spot, right? We could have, if we drew this chart out, seen that this was a high probability of a resistance spot, and it's pulling back, right? So where does it pull back to? Well, that all depends, but where is it most likely to pull back to before another bounce? Well, it's coming into its moving averages there, where we're on the daily, right? And then it's already pierced this secondary point of control. So where I'd be watching for this is for a turnaround around 206.93. That's the main point of control. And for me, there would be a good risk reward spot to pick it up, right? And I don't know where you picked it up before, right? You may have been playing something even tighter. So if this is the daily chart, this thing is still intact, right? However, could somebody tell me what you were playing on WM? There's kind of two ways to view this. What chart time frame were you playing on WM originally? Were you just playing this right here on like let's say a 30-minute 78? You're playing this high 78. Okay, so hold on, let me adjust. Okay, let me get rid of all my lines. Okay, and this plays into what we did yesterday. All right, so if I'm playing just the 78, let's go back to, I don't know, doesn't really matter. Let's say there. Okay, so I'm using the time function here, and I'm playing this 78-minute squeeze. Let's even back it down to like a 65. I like that a little bit better. Same kind of idea. Okay. So I'm playing this squeeze, right? If I mark this chart up, oh, interesting. Well, I already see what happened. But this would have been our value area high, right? All right, we come down here and we have kind of a value area low. We have a point of control here, right? And we see that in red, okay? So that's the chart we're playing. Then, and let's say we're playing it on the 65. Now, granted, this is a, I use the time function, so we're back a few hours. So if this is the chart we're playing, we're risking off of this 211.89. Now as I play this forward, okay, still not broken, right? This is still not broken because it pierced, but it came back up into our pattern, right? When was this? That was yesterday, okay? And then we hit, that is a full candle on the 65-minute chart. That, if you're playing this 75-minute or 78-minute squeeze or 65-minute squeeze up here, right there, yesterday at 11:40, I'm guessing that's 11:40, the chart's broken. Do you guys see that? So it depends on what you're playing. Now, you were playing a 78 in what is arguably a much larger chart pattern up here, right? And so within this chart pattern, if you were playing the daily, it's still not busted. But if you were playing that 65-minute, 78-minute squeeze up there, right here, it's busted. So this, and watch I continue to play it out. So we talk about, right, knowing your stop levels and getting out when a trade is busted. So if waste management is being traded here on that squeeze, then you are busted, right? And if you're still holding this and you have a lot of time, okay, maybe it has an opportunity to rebound because it has a larger chart pattern on the daily right here, and it's down into its EMAs. But to get down to its point of control, it's got a little bit further to fall. So then you have to ask yourself, one, should I have gotten out when it was busted from the smaller time frame chart, right? And two, do I have enough time to let this play out on a daily? Yeah, Baronius, I'm probably not saying that right. You have to factor into the idea that Nate has a larger risk tolerance than, in my opinion, most people in this room should have. Because it's his account, right? It's his money, it's his account. He knows how to trade out of things like this, right? What's your yeah, he's trying to trade out of it, right? Because it got busted and he wasn't in front of his computer, right? Yes, it started to bust yesterday and just became, it just sold off hard. So he's trying to trade out of what is already a busted trade, right? So so understanding what the goal is at that point is important, because you're just putting more money at risk. And you might have a smaller account, you might have less risk tolerance, you might have there's a whole variety of things that make this a potentially different execution. But I talk about this all the time when I come on, is once you are given a trade idea, and you go in and you mark up your chart and figure out what your risk reward and your own personal risk tolerance is, how much you're willing to lose on a trade, you have to be responsible for that, right? You have to be responsible for managing that, because it's yours, it's your money, it's your trade, it's your decision to take that or not take that, right? So just understanding what's happening, that the trade is busted, and that he's adding to it to try and trade out of it, right? But then we go to something like Ollie, right? Not many people are complaining about Ollie, right? It's because it's working, right? It's working. So if you're in Ollie and you have options expiring this week, what am I going to tell you? I'm going to ask you what your target is. Anyone? Sorry, I keep sniffing. My allergies are bugging me today. Yeah, if your target is 100, good. If it's 100 or 101 or whatever, right? This is, I mean, I can't tell you what to do, right? But I would probably, because 100 and it pierced through 100 and it's kind of consolidating there. I personally, if I had done this trade, would have taken profits, or at least a major chunk, depending on the number of contracts I was holding, right? And we were marking this up yesterday when this thing was coming right down in here. The risk reward was phenomenal. And I know many of you were already in it, but if you weren't in it, like, that was the spot, right? So we talk about marking these charts up. I wasn't in it, and we started marking it up, and price was, I don't know, price was like right in here. I came on kind of early. The thing just started drifting and drifting, and by the time I was kind of done talking, it was here ish, and we had set up a risk reward trade that was, I think it was like 6 to 1 or something like that. Like, even just up to that spike high, yeah, it was almost 8 to 1 right there. I think the reason it was 6 to 1 is because I brought it down a little lower. But you see what I'm getting at there, right? So the things that we do as human beings, right? We do a number of things. Is we don't cut things when they break down, right? To save our capital. We hope they were going to bounce and go the way we wanted them to. And then another thing we end up doing is not taking profits at the right time or the planned time, for two reasons. One, we take it off early because we're scared, or two, we hold it too long because we're greedy and we want more, right? The best piece of advice I can provide, the best piece of advice I can provide is, once you've created a plan, follow that plan to the letter, right? Take profits or cut trade. Otherwise, just let the trade work. Right? So of those three, you know, Most of you are taking heat on Kava and waste management, and everybody's in love with Ollie, right? So also recognize those emotions too, recognizing I can always tell, I can always come in the room and be like, oh, the whole room's in Kava right now because everybody's asking, what's the chart look like? What's the, where does the chart break down? When how do you roll options, right? Like, it's pretty easy to figure out what people are in and what's taking heat that day just by the questions. So, does that help answer some of those questions? Kava is not broken, not even slightly, but the options that you're in might be. And that's just, sometimes you take a shot on something that's a little shorter dated because it's coming into a good level and you think the move might be coming, right? And that's okay, but just understanding why that's not working at that moment is important. It's not the chart. Chart's beautiful. It's the option that was chosen. In Kava's case. In waste management's case, it's not stopping out when the chart breaks down. So it's not the option you're in. It's not stopping out when the chart breaks down. And there's a variety of reasons for that. Maybe you didn't know where the stop out level was because you didn't mark up your chart. Or maybe you did mark up your chart and you knew where the stop level was, but you decided to live on hope. And this thing has gotten away from you, right? That's essentially the two choices there. You didn't know where the stop out level was because you didn't plan it, and you're wondering what to do with it down here, or you did have it a stop level already picked, and you didn't follow your plan. And then Ollie, that's the one everybody's in love with because it's working. But I would argue follow your plan. If your plan is 100, you should be out. If your plan is different than that, then you're still holding. I still fight with some of these, like uh, the move. My target was 140 cents, and we come up and we pierce 100, and I'm like, do I hold? Do I cut it? Because this is a spot, it's a psychological spot where it might roll over. I mean, who knows? There's a lot of factors that you have to kind of decide, right? You have to decide, do I think this is going to continue to go up during this week, during the shortened week? What are my options? Am I a month out, or am I expiring this Friday? To me, if I was expiring this Friday and we got to move into that 100, I would say thank you very much, market, and I would take those profits. That's just me. I'm not in any of these three trades. This could have just broken up above that level, right? Tapped 100. It's going to come back and retest this breakout level, right? And then it's going to go. Or it broke out of that breakout level, it tapped 100, and now it's going to roll right back over. Kind of like you see in waste management. One more point. Let's go to waste management. If you're playing a 78-minute chart, let me back some of this up, right? Let's go to my replay. Let's go to here. Oops. Replay here. Okay, when I see this, when I see, this is called it's basically a breakout and reclaim, right? We break up above our previous high level, right? Our value area high. We break out of the pattern, and our very next candle is a rejection back into the pattern. To me, just like in reverse, when we talk about a breakdown and reclaim, right, back into the pattern, when you get that immediate breakdown and rejection, I'm expecting this to come at least back down to the bottom end of the pattern, the value area low, at the very least. Because you get this pop up and quick rejection, right? It did more than that. It popped up, rejected, and then rolled right over. But what you want to see, if you want this thing to continue to go, is what I was just talking about. You want to see, if I come out here, is, now keep in mind, this is back to yesterday. What you want to see is this break up like that, and then a retest of this area, the breakout area, and then another move back that way. If you see a breakout and a quick rejection, and what you see here, this is even more telling is the right word, right? Is you can see here, we came up, we immediately came back into the pattern, and then we retested that level and held it and rolled further, right? That's telling me that we tried to see if there were buyers up here. There weren't. We tested it again, and then we rolled over. So then as I play this out, we're going to come at least down into the bottom of the pattern, if not more. It tried a few more times. Does it go again? It might go again. Yep, see, it tested it. We double topped. And then it just says there's just no buyers up there. And down it goes. And you can see how many times it tried to get above that, and it just tried, and just there weren't the buyers at that level. Anyway, I hope that kind of helps when you're evaluating your trades. Does anybody have any questions there before I jump off here? Uh Angela, they all just play within each other. I can do another lesson on that later with more detail. But you know, when you look at a 5 minute candle, that's you know one candle is showing three 1 minute candle, the data of three 1 minute candles. So you always want to, play the largest time frame chart that you can that has a pattern that you're looking for. But then at the same time, they kind of inform each other, right? So this is a 65-minute chart. So then I can look at this one 65-minute candle and see, what happened during that roughly hour, right? So, they all just sort of inform each other. That's why we look for nested squeezes. You look for a squeeze on the 30, the hourly, the 78. Means as they fire, they're going to kind of like fire in succession. Okay, that's it for me. I will try and jump on a little bit later, but I kind of hope that helps. When you're looking at a chart, and if you go back to the lesson I did yesterday, it's really important to understand where your stop levels need to be, and then take ownership of those, even if it's somebody else's trade idea. Well, Angela, sometimes the pattern is only available on a 65. It has to be a chart pattern that looks like looks like our woodpecker pattern or ascending triangle or flag, and also has a squeeze, right? So if it doesn't have a squeeze on the 195, I'm not going to play the 195. Let's see. So in this case, on Cava, no, Cava doesn't work, but it has to have all the criteria. All right, I will talk to y'all a bit later.